I think of I think of the word thug right away. I think of violence, but I also think about I know a guy who actually was trying to like unify gangs, and so I think about him. And I think about actually what the original purpose of gangs were, which were not to like sell drugs and kill people, but was to like create brotherhood. So that's kind of what I think about.
When I hear about gangs, I always think about people coming together as a group, looking out for one another. I always think about how they try to stay together through tough times, right? Uh, I think most teens join gangs because it's either through an influence of a family member or a friend, or because they're afraid for what happens if they're by themselves. Those get affected by joining gangs because they're committing to a life that isn't too favorable, a life that often requires crimes and often ends up 6 feet under. We can do a lot to stop this issue. One of the main reasons I believe gangs are about is because of poverty, because of people having tough times to make it through. And, we have to unite as a community, not just as a city, but as a whole country, to slowly try to equalize this whole middle class. Gangs do not personally affect me, but I've learned a lot about gangs. I know of people who are in gangs. I know of people who have tried to get me into a gang. Suffice to say, it didn't work. I personally have never experienced any form of gang violence or gang influence, but I do see it in my community. I do see some of my friends being gangs and how they're affected. Billy Gonzalez.
Somebody to tell them not to. I think it's a lack of guidance. So and I think a lot of people would probably say this, when you find guidance, or if you find somebody that's willing to take care of you or give you money or anything like that, if they have to be affiliated, it's a lot easier to get involved in a gang unless you didn't have those influences in your life. So, when you have nothing or nobody, or it's where you came up, it's a lot easier for you to get involved. But I think it still comes down to you as an individual making a choice to either be involved or not. Because obviously there's students that grow up in the hood or grow up in areas where there are gangs that choose not to join or not to get involved. So how do we find out what that kid is doing versus the kid that is choosing to join?
How do gangs personally affect your life?
They don't, for the most part. I'd say that I don't know who in this school or anybody that I would work with as a student here that's affiliated in the gang. So I don't think at all. But that doesn't mean that it may not impact what we do.
All right. How about New York in general? How do you think it's affecting?
I honestly feel like I tell people this all the time, that I feel safe walking in any part of Manhattan. I'll walk from the top to the bottom. And I feel safe there. And so I feel like, as far as I know, I don't know about any gang activity that happens in Manhattan. I'm sure it's there, I just don't know about it.
Okay, what do you think can be done about gangs? What's the solution to it, per se?
Yeah, I don't know, I know they exist, but I feel like they're not as prevalent, they're not as influential as they once were. I would say a unique way as a guy that I used to know was he was trying to promote, our guy I know actually, he was trying to promote what it really meant to be a blood, or what it really meant to be a Crip, and where they originally began, and what the purpose was, to really educate the young people on what they're getting involved in and what the original intent was. And if you can acknowledge that and say, hey, this is what it was about originally, and we can move forward one that way.
Is you good?
Okay, hold on. Hello?
My first thought is basically a group of people trying to make a point. Right? Gang doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing. It could be a positive. But that's one of them.
Why do you think most teens join gangs?
Maybe because they feel insecure themselves. Maybe because they think by joining certain gangs, they think that they might be able to feel safe about themselves.
Right. How does gangs affect you and your community?
Me personally, it doesn't affect me because I'm not involved in it. I do know a lot of people that are involved in it. I keep a distance. In the community, it does a lot of difference because it is, like I said, it is a good thing or a bad thing. It's to protect the community or just to bring it down to
recording? How do you think we can solve the gang violence problem?
By taking the kids out of the streets, putting them into different places like after school activities, maybe like go out into the countryside, maybe get them active. Because the thing is, since a lot of parents they work too much, kids they have too much freedom.
How do you think gangs rank amongst the biggest problems in New York City? How do you think gangs rank amongst the most problems in New York City? Like abortion, gay rights. What do you think?
I think it's the top 5.
Top 5
because gangs, what they usually do is try to control their territory when it comes to like I said, negative things. They're trying to control the territory and basically have their own rules and people just do whatever they want them to. So I think that's top 5.
Thank you.